Hello, I'm Kim Furnish from InStar Coaching,
And I'm Anne Sayer from Planet Aware.
and we are joining you today to follow on from our last chat about our project, which is My Planet, My Journal. And so we're going to start with a little recap of what our last chat was about in case you missed it. So, Anne, can you remind everyone what our project, My Planet, My Journal, is about?
Indeed, yes. So My Planet, My Journal. It's all about using journaling at the time of crisis. So while we are experiencing this lockdown and dealing with the awfulness that is Corona, it's using journaling as a tool to stay healthy, but also to look at what is still good in our life and to find the positives from our life, and also to record this time and how we felt about it and our responses to it. And in particular for this project, because it's part of a wider project called My Planet, My Voice, it's about identifying our responses, positive environmental responses, that we wouldn't have maybe otherwise experienced, and capturing them. And I think journaling is really important for this, Kim, as we know, because we've discussed quite a few times the strength of capturing something in the moment, capturing exactly how you feel about something, and then going back and reminding yourself of that feeling and how it felt and why it was so important and why you valued something. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple of things that have come up. We've got an associated project called My Planet, My Photo. So we're asking people just to take photos during the crisis. And the things that have really come up there have been people have really, really appreciated their opportunities to walk, especially if they can walk in nature. So that sort of once a day exercise. People are starting to be really creative, starting to grow their own stuff and really appreciate this sort of slow growing and nurturing of their own food. It's been a really interesting time. So as Corona's put limits on our life and our lifestyle and has stopped us dashing here, there and everywhere, what it's done, it's sort of forced us to kind of slow down and look around, look more closely at what's around us. So in essence, My Planet, My Journal is all about capturing that slowing down and capturing that reflection about what we're starting to look at more deeply. And I've experienced that just as much as anyone, and I'll probably talk about that in a minute. So yes, that's a project. So what we want you to do is just journal with us, and we'll talk a little bit about our own journaling experiences over the weeks. I think I'm going to return to you, Kim, because you're the seasoned journaler of the
Journaler.
two of us, aren't you?
Oh, brilliant. Thanks, Anne. Yeah, so that's great. So, as I remember from our chat, and what you've talked about is that it's about capturing those moments, and the fact that, a lot of us now are more able to take those moments to, if you like, stop and stare, and almost like get, almost like taken aback by something we might see, and to do that has its benefits, because there's a lovely boost in positive emotion when you see something maybe that's unexpected, and that is in the moment. And actually, when you capture it, one of the benefits that we were talking about before with journaling is that you can savor it once again when you look back on it. And I guess that's what we're encouraging people to do, is to, yes, find, acknowledge those moments when you see something that's surprising or poignant, and then the next step then is to record it. And that's where the journaling comes in. So, Anne, how have you got? I can tell you what's been my experience of journaling in a second, but how have you got on with your journaling?
Well, Kim, as we discussed early on, I remember I told you very early on my story about how I kept a diary as a teenager, and the moment I left home, I stuck it on the bonfire and said, right, never going to do that again. And here I am, X number of decades later, going, right, okay, I'm going to start journaling. And you told me about this process of journaling called bullet journaling, which I wasn't sure about first, but then I looked into it, and then I realised that it met all my needs, because it was like a to-do list and a reflection journal all in one, which is absolutely brilliant. I have this book here, and I feel very safe with it near me now, and it's
Yeah.
enabled me to kind of clear my mind in a way, and also focus on quite a lot of things. And so one of the things that I've made myself do is kind of note down stuff that I'm grateful for, the gratitude. So I think it's really quite a common idea in journaling to make yourself really say thank you for maybe 1, 2 or 3 things. I try and do 3 things every day. And looking back on it, a lot of it has been around nature, a lot of it's been around people, being grateful for people being there, I had a really lovely experience. A friend of mine, my old singing teacher actually, on Facebook, she also, I found out, does wood engravings, and I happened to say what beautiful wood engravings she'd been sharing them and digging them out and showing them on Facebook. And she said, oh, I'll send you one. So I got this lovely print of an engraving, and it was so beautiful. It was of a hare, and it was my favourite animal, and that
Wow.
would never have happened if I hadn't, if we hadn't been in this crisis. So I kind of noted that down,
Yeah, yeah,
thankful for that. But in terms of looking back over the stuff I've been grateful for, one thing that's really come up is that every time I think about, or I note down something that I've seen in nature, so woodpecker I saw at the weekend on my cycle ride, and also red kite, and when I read those, when I look back and read those entries in the journal, I sort of got this moment of, oh, yes, that sort of, just a moment of I could see them again. I saw them again,
yeah,
the red kite in the sky and the woodpecker in the field, and the feeling that you get just reminding yourself of that is a really positive one. But it was also it was a memory that was kind of free of anything else. There wasn't any burden associated. There wasn't any kind of, oh, I'm so grateful that someone's got involved to help my dad out with his shopping. He lives miles and miles
yeah,
away. So you can be grateful for something, but our gratitude towards nature is kind of almost unencumbered in a way. It's something we also take for granted a little bit, and that's a real problem as well, because nature in the UK or across the world is suffering, and it is in decline. So the more that we can use this opportunity to reflect on its value and its importance, the more we will hopefully in the future understand the need to maintain it, to support it. And one of the things I found out this week was Natural England, which is one of the national organisations that sort of promotes nature conservation and work in this area. They're actually going to be asking people about their experiences of nature during COVID-19. So there's actually it's all done in a very scientific sampling way, so you can't just write in and fill out questions, but it is
no,
something that is on people's radars now, that the fact that
definitely.
nature has become so important, and local nature has become so important. And my experience is absolutely, it's, even someone like me who loves nature, who
Yeah.
always goes out in nature, has really reflected on its importance in the last few weeks. So that's been my experience, Kim.
It's fantastic, and I
What
think,
about you?
when you're talking about it, it's you're kind of like painting that picture for me about what you've seen, and it really sort of like gives a depth to it, which I think there's almost like that dose, isn't it? You get one, as I say,
Yes,
you get that one hit of positive emotion when you see something, and then when
yes,
you go back and and when you recall it, you get it again, and it
you
just
do
keeps
very
on
much.
coming, and it's a brilliant way to increase your positive emotion, especially in these times of social isolation, is to actually revisit that. So you could, capture what you've done during the week and then go back over it and get that once again. Yeah, so that's what I noticed when you're talking about those boosts, and I was aware that I was sat here smiling when you were talking. So it's all this sort of really positive emotion, and as you say, coming from nature. And yeah, there is the gratitude for people, and with the nature one, it's pure, isn't it? And I think there's an element of awe in there as well, that emotion called awe, which again is can be quite inspiring. The other thing I thought of when you were talking was, you mentioned the England project. Was it
Natural England,
Natural
yes.
England? And it reminded me that one thing that we talked about was actually collating people's experiences and putting them into it, with permission, putting them into a book. So that's just something, almost being part of a bigger project there, isn't there? The potential.
I think definitely. I think there is so much opportunity, but there is so much already that people are recording, and maybe they're doing it personally, maybe they don't even know they're doing it. They might have just jotted something down or shared a post on Facebook. I think for a lot of people that's almost their form of journaling, in a way, is to share it kind of directly with people. But it is worth going back over this time and kind of picking up on those real positives from that you've experienced as a result of maybe engaging with nature or engaging with the environment in some other way, and capturing those. And yeah, you're absolutely right, Kim. If we could, wouldn't it be wonderful to bring the story, the story of people, nature, and in the face of corona together, not as a kind of, wasn't it awful, which yes it is and yes it will be, but hasn't this opened us to something, you know, that we
Yeah.
hadn't maybe had time to do? And you know,
Yeah.
you think about our opportunities, and I remember talking about this first of all, is that because we have, because for most of us, our opportunities are fairly wide. You know, if we have a car, you can get into a car and you can drive quite a long way to go and see somewhere else. Or you know, if you go on a plane, or you go on holiday or whatever, there's an opportunity to go somewhere else and look at nature there. But as soon as you start restricting people and you sort of bring in their horizons closer and closer, it does make you look around more. And we've got so much lovely stuff. We've got
Yeah.
so much amazing stuff in this country. I can't get over it sometimes, you know. And just thinking about, you know, like I said the other day, looking up. I literally was looking up when I was thinking about this red kite and this amazing bird that was nearly extinct a few years ago, and it now comes over a field near
Yeah.
my house. Isn't that
Yeah.
incredible?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think this is what you know, if anything positive can come out of something like this appreciation for what we have
Yeah, and
on our doorstep.
it almost as if your attention is focused, isn't it? You said about, you know, bringing the boundaries in, you know, restrictions, if you like, which focuses your attention into those things that are near to you, which then links into appreciation. And you mentioned there about looking up, and I remember that's something that we talked about in our last chat. You know, instead of looking just around, actually look up. And the sky, I'm a very I love, you know, the variations in sky, and so that's something to be aware of as well. That is part of nature. So my experience, I just wanted to bring in something around the process of journaling from two aspects. And the first aspect I want to talk about is I have been taking part in a meditation challenge where you're kind of encouraged to meditate for a short time every day, and I started it with all enthusiasm, and I thought, oh, this is my opportunity. And it got to about, it's a 21-day challenge, and it got to I think day 5, and I thought, oh, I've got to, you know, I got into, oh, I've got to do it. So it then became a chore, which I noticed in myself and worked through, and thought, you know, you have got a choice. And I decided, yeah, I do want to do it. And also thinking of the outcome, what my outcome, keep that in mind, which was as an opportunity for me to learn how to rest in a different way. So I kept that in mind. So I was very aware of that process that I went through. It was a chore, and now I've come out the other side of that, and I'm absolutely enjoying it and looking forward to it. So I just wanted to, you know, I don't know whether you can relate that to a journaling experience, because I know I can too. You set off with any habit that you try and get into, you set off with good intentions, and then you go through that process. And as a kind of illustration of that, I've recently been sorting through a box of just, you know, possessions, because we recently moved house, and I found a lot of notebooks. And this is one of my things, that I will see a notebook and I'll buy it and I'll start writing in it. So I've posted on my Instagram, actually, the amount of books, probably about 6 or 7. And one in particular that I opened, it starts in 2015, and it has an entry every year from 2015, just 1 or 2 at the same time of year, which is April, which I found fascinating, because I thought, actually, this must be, April is the time of year when I go, right, I'm going to start, you know, return to writing. And my sort of like point about that is, just keep coming back to it. Don't think, oh, I've started it and I haven't continued it. And I think this is true for any habit, just keep coming back to it,
Yeah,
because I know I certainly do. So it's not it happens, it's a magical thing that happens. It is a process. Keeping a
absolutely.
journal is a process, and that's
I
my
think you're
point.
right. I think there's two things there. I think definitely in some sense there's quite a good discipline, I suppose, in kind of, like you say, you had your challenge around the meditation challenge. So this idea, I've got this sort of page and it's called gratitudes, and the idea is that I should put something on it every day, and I'm not going to give myself a hard time if I don't, you know, if I forget and I go to bed early or whatever. But there's something about structure, isn't there? There's something about structure in our lives that helps us, and sort of writing something in a journal every day, helps us with the structure, which we really, really need right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you said, it also kind of teaches you get to the point where it becomes a habit, it becomes normal. And they say 21 times and it becomes a habit. I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, it's interesting that this is a 21-day meditation, so maybe it is true.
There you go, there you go. But then at the same time, I completely agree with you, Kim, is to not think of it as it has to be this, it has to be, I keep this journal every day for a year. It's to help you, really, isn't it? I think,
Yeah.
Pick it up, do it at a time when it works for you, and sometimes it will and sometimes it won't. But the important thing for us is that if you to capture what you feel, and if on a day you're just not feeling it, that's okay too, you can capture that.
Yeah,
I've had sad
absolutely.
takes in my journal as well.
Yeah, yeah, because that's real. That is real emotions, positive, and the difficult emotions like anger, sad. It's all real and all
Yeah.
relevant.
And the great thing about a book, though, is that it's not Facebook and it's not Instagram. It's so you don't have to go through this filter of like, oh, who else is going to see it first?
Yeah,
Because this is totally your book, and
absolutely.
you can offload onto it. And if you want to share it later, then do. And especially if you want to share the stuff about your positive environmental, kind of experiences.
Yeah,
In our book, the forthcoming book.
yeah, yeah, fantastic.
I'll
So
find it.
I think what I'm going to suggest is that if anybody's got any photographs that they've taken recently when they've been out and about, out in nature, if they've got any photographs that they would like to use that as a prompt to write in their journals. What do you think?
I think it's a really, really good idea. I think photos sometimes as well, they're kind of just a really quick reminder. I mean, in some cases, certain things really lend themselves to photos, don't they? I think there's kind of flowers and trees and maybe a little sunset or whatever, or even just a photo of you. My partner took this photo of him just off his handlebars on a bike and down an empty road, just to remind himself of the experience of the fact that he was, he had that feeling of space around him and that ability to cycle on what would all normally be quite a sort of little bit of a scary road. So definitely photos are prompts. And I would definitely, I think they're, like you said, I think that's something that I learned through you, Kim, the idea of using photos as journaling in themselves, as both as prompts but as records of themselves. So
Yeah,
definitely. And
yeah,
as mentioned before, we've got My Planet, My Photo, and every photo that is hashtag with My Planet Aware Photo or My Planet My Photo, we'll donate £1. This is Planet Aware donating £1 to the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Community Foundation, to up to £100 to support their coronavirus support and help fund. So there you go.
excellent.
They're definitely
Very
worth it.
good cause. Very good cause. Okay. Well, that's, I think, for this week then, that we'll focus on, looking at your photographs that you've already got that you might like to share. And then just being aware when you're out on your walks, taking some more photographs and then letting us know what it means to you.
Indeed. And shall we remind everyone that on Instagram, you can follow us on hashtag MyPlanetMyJournal and Planet Aware Solent and
Kim.Furnish.
Furnish. So
Yeah.
you'll find us there. Yeah, brilliant. And
Thank
happy
you.
journaling, everyone. Enjoy.
Yes.
Take your photos and we'll
Yes.
see you soon.
Start
Bye.
journaling. Bye.